Sign Christ bless. I'm Deacon Athana to my right.
Officer Zephaniah.
In tonight's class, we're going to deal with a particular issue in regards to the new moon doctrines that's being pushed out amongst our people. So I'm going to address it one last time. All right. In dealing with this Bible, we must always remember to edify the people through precepts. Precept must be upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Not precept upon concordance, not precept upon Greek or Hebrew, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Once you execute that skillfully, you'll be able to break the Bible down to the easiest understanding possible. All right? Let's get Psalms 119, verse 104.
The book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 104. Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way.
So whenever you go outside the precepts, it's a false way. When you go to Google or Blue Letter and it goes against the scriptures, it is a false way. Read again from the top.
Verse 104. Through thy precepts I get understanding.
So through the precepts is where your understanding comes from in understanding the Bible. Understanding accounts that took place concerning our forefathers with the precepts. Nothing more. All right, now, let's deal with it. We're going to deal with the quickly and speedily. We're going to deal with the death and resurrection of the Messiah one last time. And this is going to back up, this is going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the lunatic Sabbath doctrine is garbage. One last time. Matthew 27, verse 57. Using the precepts now. Nothing more. Matthew 27, 57.
The book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 57. When the even was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea, named Joseph, who also himself was Jesus' disciple.
So this is Joseph of Arimathea, the one who was responsible for burying the Christ. All right, this is Joseph, and it says, when the even was come. And this is Matthew's account. Now I want you to hold that. We're going to get Mark 15 and 42. Now we're going to go precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Mark 15, verse 42.
The book of Mark, chapter 15, verse 42. And now when the even was come, because it was the preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath.
Read it again.
And now, when the even was come.
Stop. We just read that in Matthew 27 and 57. Read on.
Because it was the preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath.
So now he's giving you more detail as to what day this was. This is the day of the preparation. Now, is it preparation of the Passover? No, it's not, because Passover had already taken place when they took the Messiah into custody that evening. That's when the Passover was already going on. So this is the fifth. This is the Passover begins the 14th day at even, which is the 15th day. This is the 15th day. This took place during the 15th day. All right, read on.
Verse 40,
in the evening. Go ahead.
Verse 43. Joseph of Arimathea, an honorable counselor, which also waited for the kingdom of God,
Jesus' disciple,
came and went in boldly unto Pilate, and craved the body of Jesus.
Because the body had to be in the ground before the sun went down, because it was even. According to the law, when a body is hung, it must be in the ground before sundown, so the land is not polluted. Now, let's get the book of John 19:14 to show what preparation day this was. Now we're going to go to John. We went to Matthew, we went to Mark, now we're going to go to John. Because they're all giving a different account, but each account is clarifying everything that's going on. John 19, verse 14.
The book of John, chapter 19 and verse 14.
This is going to explain what preparation is taking place. Is it preparation for the 7-day Sabbath or something else? Read.
And it was the preparation of the Passover.
Of the what?
The Passover.
No, the 7-day Sabbath.
The Passover.
Of the Passover. So this preparation took place during the Passover. Go ahead.
And about the 6th hour. And he saith unto the Jews, Behold your king.
So this is during the time in which John is giving us the point of time when Christ is in custody of the Romans. Now, this is the preparation of the Passover. The part we want is the preparation of the Passover. Let's get Leviticus 23 verse 5 now. let's see if preparation is taking place during the day of the Passover. Once again, the 14th day at evening is, for some of you novices, the 14th day at evening is the 15th day. And during the 15th day, Israel had to make preparations. For what? We're going to get it now. Leviticus 23 and verse 5.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 23 and verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover.
The first day of the 14th, the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover. 14th day at even. Read on.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread.
This is the same day. The 14th day at even is the 15th day, which is the Lord's Passover. Saying the same thing. The 14th day at evening is the 15th day. Read on. Verse 6.
Verse 6.
Verse 7, sorry.
Now I didn't finish verse 6.
Go ahead.
Verse 6. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread.
7 days ye eat unleavened bread. Go ahead.
Verse 7. In the first day ye shall have In the first day ye shall have an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
So the first day of the Passover is a Sabbath. That's why when you read John 19:31, it says that Sabbath was an high day, because the first day of Passover is a Sabbath. Okay, so no work's to be done. Servile work. Read on.
Verse 8. But ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days.
7 days. So preparations are made for offerings for the rest of the week. Go ahead.
In the 7th day is an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
So the last day is a high day, is a Sabbath day of the Passover. The first day is a Sabbath. The last day is a Sabbath. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I gave unto you, ye shall reap the harvest thereof. Then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
This begins the feast of first fruits. So Israel had to bring forth their harvest. Preparation was made for the first fruits during the Passover day. It's going to explain. Read on. It's going to say it.
Verse 11. And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. On the morrow, after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it.
On the morrow after the Sabbath. So the 15th day at evening is the 16th day, which is the next day. So they're making preparations for the wave offerings, the sheaf offerings, the first fruits. That's the preparation day was for, to prepare for the next day to wave those offerings, to bring forth those offerings. The preparation is referring to that, the first fruits, not the 7-day Sabbath. Now, let's get Luke 23 and verse 50. Let's see. Now we're going to Luke now. We went to Matthew, Mark, John. Now we're going to Luke. Luke 23 and verse 50.
The book of Luke, chapter 23 and verse 50. And behold, there was a man named Joseph, a counselor, and he was a good man and a just.
Was it earlier in Matthew 27:57 and in Mark 15:42. Go ahead.
The same had not consented to the counsel and deed of them.
He was involved in the council, but he didn't agree to having Christ put to death. Go ahead.
He was of Arimathea, a city of the Jews, who also himself waited for the kingdom of God.
He followed Christ as well, but secretly, like Nicodemus. Go ahead.
This man went unto Pilate and begged the body of Jesus.
Go ahead.
And he took it down and wrapped it in linen and laid it in a sepulchre that was hewn in stone, wherein never man before was laid.
It was his own sepulchre he made for himself, so it was new. Go ahead.
Verse 54. And that day was the preparation, and the Sabbath drew on.
Preparation of what? The first fruits, the following evening. The first fruits. And what? Read verse 54 again.
And that day was the preparation, and the Sabbath drew on.
And the Sabbath was coming in. Now it's going into a few days later, another day later. Go ahead.
Verse 55.
I'm going to prove it's going into it's going on the same week. Go ahead.
And the women also, which came with him from Galilee, followed after, and beheld the sepulchre, and how his body was laid.
So the sisters came up during the time which the Sabbath was coming in, to see where he was laid. Go ahead.
And they returned and prepared spices and ointments and rested the Sabbath day according to the commandments.
So this Sabbath day here is the 7th-day Sabbath. They rested according to the commandment. Not the Passover Sabbath, this is the 7th-day Sabbath. All right, so at this point in time, all this is going on in the same week. The Messiah was condemned to death, crucified, and during that same week, they rested on the Sabbath, and they prepared ointments and spices before then and rested. Now get get Matthew 27 and verse 57 now. I'm going to go back now.
The book of Matthew, chapter 27 and verse 57.
We started here first. We're going to read down.
When the even was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea named Joseph, who also himself was Jesus' disciple.
We're for the kingdom of God. Go ahead.
He went to Pilate and begged the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered.
Go ahead.
And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth.
It didn't take 5 days. It took but couple hours. Go ahead.
And laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the door of the sepulchre and departed.
And left. Read on next verse.
And there was Mary Magdalene and the other Mary sitting over against the sepulchre.
Go ahead.
Now the next day.
Now the what?
The next day.
So this is going into the same week. Now the next day. Go ahead.
That followed the day of the preparation.
Which is the next day. Go ahead. This is another day. Go ahead. In the same week.
The chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that deceiver said, while he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again.
After 3 days I'll rise again. Go ahead. After 3 days I'll rise again. Meaning after 72 hours he'll be up. Go ahead.
Command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away, and say unto the people, He is risen from the dead. So the last error shall be worse than the first.
Read again from the beginning.
Verse 64. Command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the 3rd day.
Stop. So they asked Pilate to set it up where there's a watch of the sepulchre until the 3rd day, just in case his disciples come and steal the body away and say, see, he rose from the dead, and people believe in him. So their job was they asked Pilate to have men keep a watch until the 3rd day. To the 3rd day. Read on.
Lest his disciples come by night and steal him away.
The 3rd day.
And say unto the people, He is risen from the dead. So the last error shall be worse than the first.
He'll gain more believers. Go ahead.
Pilate said unto them, Ye have a watch. Go your way. Make it as sure as ye can.
Use your own men for that. Go ahead.
So they went and made the sepulchre sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch.
Sealing the stone and setting a watch until when? The 3rd day. So all this is going on in the course of the same week. Now get Matthew 28 and verse 1.
Matthew chapter 28 verse 1.
It continues on now.
In the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the 1st day of the week.
This is the following week. Go ahead.
Came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it.
So this took place during the 1st day of the week. All right, go ahead.
His countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow.
Go ahead.
And for fear of him, the keepers did shake, and became as dead men.
So the keepers are still here at this time. And he scared them off. Go ahead.
And the angel answered and said unto the women, Fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified.
Stop. That's all I want now. Matter of fact, read on.
He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come, see the place where the Lord lay.
Stop. That's all we want. So now, he scared the watch off. Angel sitting there told him that he's not here, he's risen. Let's get Luke 24 and verse 1 now. We're not going to go to Luke and read the same exact account, but Luke gives, all praise to the Most High, more details to clear up this mystery, because the doctrine is this, and I'll keep it brief. The doctrine is that when the sisters showed up to the sepulchre in Matthew 28, they showed up the following week on the Sabbath. based on the lunatic Sabbath, because every month the Passover is the 14th day. They're saying the sisters came around the 21st or 22nd because the cycle for them would be the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, or the 28th. They're saying that the 14th day is Passover and the 21st or 22nd day, they showed up to the sepulchre. They came a week later, pretty much. That's what they're saying. We're going to prove right here in this chapter that's lies. Because once again, after 3 days, you cannot get a 7-day Sabbath. During the course of the 3 days in which he was in the ground, the sisters rested on a 7-day Sabbath. All right? Read. Watch them prove it to you. Read Luke and 24 verse 1.
The book of Luke, chapter 24 and verse 1. Now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, there came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them. And they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre.
So remember, it says they brought the spices which they had prepared, along with other women as well. So when did they prepare these spices and ointments? It said during, read verse 56 in in chapter 23. Real quick.
Book of Luke, chapter 23 and verse 56. And they returned and prepared spices and ointments.
And they saw he was buried. Go ahead.
And rested the Sabbath day according to the commandment.
And they rested the Sabbath day according to the commandment. Read the next chapter in verse 1 again.
Luke 24 and verse 1. Now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning,
the following day, go ahead,
they came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them.
Go ahead.
And they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre.
And they found the stone on the first day of the week, rolled away from the sepulchre. Go ahead.
And they entered in, and found not the body of the Lord Jesus.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as they were much perplexed thereabout, behold, 2 men stood by them in shining garments.
You read that earlier in Matthew 28. Go ahead.
And as they were afraid, and bowed down their faces to the earth, they said unto them, Why seek ye the living among the dead?
Because he's alive, he's risen. Read that in Matthew 28 verse 6. Read on.
He is not here, but is risen.
Just read that. Go ahead.
Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee.
Go ahead.
Saying, The Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men, and be crucified, and the third day rise again.
And the when?
The third day rise again.
And the third day rise again. Not the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. The third day rise again, like he said. Read on.
Verse 8. And they remembered his words.
Because they came the third day during the morning hour. They came later. Why? They did not believe he would rise from the dead in the first place. They were unbelieving. But when the angel told them he would rise, like he said he would, they remembered his words. Read on.
Verse 9. And returned from the sepulchre, and told all these things unto the 11, and to all the rest.
And they went and told the disciples and all the rest. Go ahead.
Verse 10. It was Mary Magdalene and Joanna, and Mary the mother of James, and other women that were with them, which told these things unto the apostles. And their words seemed to them as idle tales, and they believed them not.
The disciples had little faith. They didn't believe that man rose from the dead. They did not believe it. And all this took place during the first day of the week, very early in the morning. When you read John, it says it was still dark, meaning it was around 4 or 5 in the morning before the sun even rose. So it was very early in the morning these things took place. Read on.
Then arose Peter, and ran unto the sepulchre, and stooping down, he beheld the linen cloths laid by themselves, and departed, wondering in himself at that which was come to pass.
So you read later another gospel, him and John ran to the sepulchre. Peter was confused, John understood. He believed. Go ahead.
And behold, 2 of them went that same day.
Went what? Read it slow.
And behold, 2 of them went that same day to a village called Emmaus.
That same day, 2 of them, the disciples, went to a village called Emmaus. That same day. What day? The first day of the week. Read on.
Which was from Jerusalem about 60 furlongs.
Go ahead.
And they talked together of all these things which had happened. And it came to pass that, while they communed together and reasoned, Jesus himself drew near and went with them.
Okay, so go ahead, because he rose already. Go ahead.
But their eyes were holden that they should not know him.
So he kept their eyes spiritually closed so they wouldn't recognize who he was. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, What manner of communications are these that ye have one to another as ye walk and are sad?
What you guys talking about? Why are you so sad? Go ahead.
Verse 18. And the one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answering, said unto him, Art thou only a stranger in Jerusalem?
Read from around here. Go ahead.
Hast thou not known the things which are come to pass there in these days?
There in these days. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, What things?
What are you talking about?
And they said unto him, Concerning Jesus of Nazareth, which was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people.
So concerning the things of the Messiah. Go ahead.
And how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death, and have crucified him.
21.
But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel. And beside all this, today is the third day since these things were done.
Today is what?
The third day since these things were done.
What took place that day? Let's backtrack. The women came back and said he wasn't there. The angel moved the stone from the sepulchre. So this took place the third day. This didn't take place 7 days later. This didn't take place the following week. It says today is the third day. So when did the Messiah resurrect? That would mean that he would have had to have been put to death and buried on the fourth day and resurrected on the seventh day at evening, which would be the first day at evening. They came the first day of the week in the morning. He rose the evening of the Sabbath, which would be the first day at evening. The seventh day ending and the first day at evening are seconds apart. So he rose the first day at evening. The seventh day at evening, or Saturday night, is when he rose. So-called Saturday night. They came Sunday morning, he wasn't there. Because if you count, the Christian church says he died Friday and rose Sunday. That's not 3 days and 3 nights. But if you count the evening of the first day backwards, you'll land on the fourth day at evening. Because from evening, the first day he was put in the ground, and he rose the evening, the third day. So where you getting the whole week went by from? Today is the third day. Read again. Read 21 again.
Verse 21. But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel. And beside all this, today is the third day since these things were done.
Today is the third day since these things were done. Read on.
Verse 22. Yea, and certain women also of our company made us astonished, which were early at the sepulchre.
That day, the third day, go ahead.
And when they found not his body, they came, saying that they had also seen a vision of angels, which said that he was alive.
That day, go ahead.
And certain of them which were with us went to the sepulchre, and found it even so as the women had said. But him they saw not.
Because he was, why? Because this all took place the same day. Where you get in Greek that the women showed up to the sepulchre a week later? When the angel showed up to the sepulchre and scared the watch away, the watch was ordered to stay there until what day? The third day. The sister showed up when? The third day. So the reason why the watch wasn't there when they showed up is because they were scared off that same day the sisters showed up after. He rose that evening. They came the same day in the morning hours. Because in the seventh, let me make it clear for you. When the seventh day ends at evening, that marks the beginning of the first day during the evening hours. When you get to the first day of the week in the morning, that's the first day of the week in the morning hours, which will be your modern day Sunday morning. He didn't rise Sunday morning. He rose the evening. Now, let's bring it full circle. Let's get Mark 16 now. Because it said in Luke 23:56 that they rested according to the Sabbath. 24 verse 1 says, now upon the first day of the week. Now we're going to read it all put together by Mark now. Mark 16 and verse 1. So my question is posed again. Where does it make a difference what calendar the elder would have used during the class? You cannot, I repeat, you cannot get, after 3 days and 3 nights, a 7-day Sabbath. If you count a new moon. You cannot do it unless he was put to death and buried the fourth day of the week. How is that after 3 days you get a 7-day Sabbath? It's impossible according to the lunatic Sabbath. It's impossible. Mark 16 verse 1.
The book of Mark, chapter 16 and verse 1. And when the Sabbath was passed.
The Sabbath that was during the same week That same week, during the course of those same 3 days, go ahead.
Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome had bought sweet spices that they might come and anoint
We read
him.
the same thing in Luke 23. Read the same thing. Go ahead.
And very early in the morning, the first day of the week,
Which followed the Sabbath that passed, that they rested on. Go ahead.
they came unto the sepulchre at the rising of the
Because
sun.
they came when it was still dark. And as they were approaching the sepulchre, the sun was coming up. But they came so early in the morning. So all of this took place during the course of the same week. The disciples said in Luke 23, today is the 3rd day. Not today is the 7th day. Not today is the 8th day. That's madness. You cannot debunk Luke 23. That destroys any thought of a 7-day Sabbath. On the calendar the elder used, if you cannot count on the 14th to 15th to the 18th, a 7-day Sabbath. If you use 8, 15, 22, and 29, you cannot count from the 16th to the 19th, a 7-day Sabbath. It's impossible. So regardless of what calendar you use, it's madness. Get Titus 1, we're going to end it on this. Titus 1 and verse 10. End it on this.
The book of Titus, chapter 1 and verse 10. For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision,
Especially they who are in this truth. Go ahead.
whose mouth must be stopped,
Whose mouths must be stopped, corrected, shut down. Go ahead.
who subvert whole houses,
Who destroy homes, who teach men to leave, disrespect their wives, beat their wives, forsake their wives and children. The Bible says we must stop these mouths. Go ahead.
teaching things which they ought not,
Don't keep the Sabbath correctly. Don't keep the Sabbath. That's things you ought not to teach. Go ahead.
for filthy lucre's sake,
For filthy lucre, because some of these heretics follow a doctrine that's contrary to the scriptures. All right, the Pharisees taught these things for money, dirty money. These men just do it just to destroy lives, because their lives are already destroyed. So their mouths must be stopped. Read 13. Verse 12.
Verse 12. One of themselves, even a prophet of their own,
Because you have men that leave their camp, men that leave them and confirm these things. Read on.
said, the Cretans are always liars,
They're always lying.
evil beasts,
They're beastly, violent, fierce, wrathful,
slow bellied.
stupid as hell. Read on.
This witness is true.
It's manifested for all of us to see in all the videos they put out. Go ahead.
Wherefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith.
So this video is to rebuke that doctrine sharply. All right? So this video is entitled Lunatic Sabbath, Nail in the Coffin. And with that, we're going to say shalom.
Shalom.